Not that long ago, I did a technique-only run in Liza P, and I asked y'all, the viewers, if y'all would want more Liza P runs, and that was a resounding yes. So today, I present to you Liza P, but I can only level advance. Also, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more crazy runs like these, or just like seeing me suffer. With that said, let's get into the rules for this run. Rule number 1, I can only level advance. Rule number 2, no summons. I got to do all the heavy lifting myself. And finally, for rule number 3, beat all bosses, even the ones that really shouldn't have a boss bar. With the rules done with, let's get this Xmas adventure started. Starting off with our class and weapon selection, I chose the path of the cricket, not so much for its weapon, but for its well-rounded stat distribution. Now, what is Advance in Liza P? Advance is Liza P's version of Intelligence and Faith from the Dark Souls series. This stat helps increase elemental damage, proc of status effects, increases legion uses, and helps increase elemental defense and resistances. So, for this run, I will be needing to focus on weapons that scale with Advance, and sadly, the starting weapon, Puppet Saber Blade, does not have any advanced scaling, but no worries, it won't take too long to get an advanced weapon. With that jargon done with, I pick up my pulse cell, commit a Class B felony against a police officer, and put on my elf uniform. Oh, did I forget to mention I am a deranged puppet elf who wants to become evil Santa to reward all the naughty people in the world? And this is my training arc? Don't worry, nothing bad happens.
What have you done?
Moving on, I buy some electric blitz to help with the upcoming boss fight, level my advance to 12, and take on Parade Master. Being the psychopathic elf that I am, I went in swinging like a mad puppet and completely forgot to equip the electric blitz. So I made sure to pull off a little bit of menu maneuvering to get it equipped so I could start doing decent damage to the boss. The reason I am doing this is to inflict electric shock on the boss. What electric shock does, it allows me to deal more damage to the boss and helps with increasing stagger damage for easier breaks. With that small buff, I was able to lower his health down just enough to finish him off with a good old backhand to the face. This might be a different character, but the holy pimp spirit will always be with me no matter the game or persona. With the Parade Master defeated, I manipulated the residents of Hotel Croc to let me in and to talk to what seems to be a nice young lady, but with a trained eye, you can tell she is a naughty one. I then used the Ergo I got from P-Master to get my advance to 14, pick up my Go-Go Gadget arm, and take off into Ellison Boulevard to beat up some of Santa's reinforcements for some Ergo because I'll be needing a good bit for a weapon that I will need. I then get the Life Amulet for more life of course, and buy the Electric Coil. The Electric Coil is a blunt type weapon that focuses on advance but leans into motivity for support damage. The blade of the weapon has the Fable Art ability, Generate, which greatly increases electric blitz damage for a short period of time. Its hilt's Art Rush Smash has the user roll and jump forward, dealing a devastating slam attack. I really wish earlier on in this run I would have known how strong this art was because I would have used it more than I did, but sadly it wouldn't be until much later until I learned this. With now having an advanced weapon, I collect some upgrade materials and take on Rudolph's twice removed cousin, Mad Donkey. Being the overly confident elf that I am, I went into this fight with only one plus cell, and after a fumble with a miss input causing me to use the wrong Fable art, led to a bit of a tight butt cheeks moment, but with a little bit of pimp slapping and a well-timed R1, I was able to get the first try. Being happily drenched in my favorite color, I met someone who looks like a skinnier version of Santa, but I doubt it could be him because he likes his milk and cookies too much. Once done chatting, I picked up the Puppet Destroyer's Amulet, finally upgrading my Electric Coil, leveling my advance to 21, and took on the scrapped Watchman. What really sucks about this fight is that your only advanced weapon option is electric, which Watchman has a 50 in resistance to. The only trade-off to this is that Electric Coil does strike damage, which Watchman has a negative 10 to. It would be nice to have a bit more options at the beginning, but luckily the fight isn't too bad to deal with. Sadly, I made another mistake here by not bringing my Pimp Hand. It would have been way more useful than the Go-Go Gadget arm. Overall, the key to this fight was just going pure Sekiro and parrying and blocking attacks until I could get the visuals to deal more damage. The only thing I would have done differently to speed this fight up a bit would have been to use Generate to get the shock status off, and then use Rush Smash to lower his health or stun him more. But either way, I was able to pull this off on my first try. With Watchman defeated, I obtained my first Advanced Legion arm, the Manus. The Manus is a charge-based weapon that once unleashed deals a powerful shock attack. When fully upgraded, it can leak out discharge, which can damage the enemy nearby and can deal a strong shock explosion upon being fully charged. Also, by defeating Watchman, I can now upgrade myself. Part of this challenge run is not making a P-Organ joke. Once done upgrading, I headed on over to Workshop Union to stumble upon a phone call, where a man gives me a riddle to solve. How nice of him. I wonder how he knew I liked riddles. After solving that impossible riddle, I take out Puppet of the Future for a quart. With that excruciating fight over with, I grab my next weapon, the Salamander Dagger. The Salamander Dagger is a slash-type weapon that primarily focuses on advance for scaling, but dips into technique to help out. The blade's Fable art is Ignite, which is the same as Generate, but for fire damage. Its hilt's art is Retreating Stab, an attack which you stab an enemy and quickly retreat. The name of the art kind of hits it on the head of the nail there, which I happily get to test out on the next mini-boss, Survivor. Once again, I went in very confidently only having 2 heals on me, and to say things got a bit spicy would be an understatement. At one point, I thought Survivor had me, but I was able to get a backstab off to get the burn status effect to proc to help lower his HP, but right before it could kill him, it wore off. So it became an epic bout between me and Survivor to see who would be the actual survivor of this match. Sadly for Survivor, my ability to panic spam R1 was just too strong for him to survive, leaving me to be the victor. After coming so close to death, I popped some fragments, leveled my advance to 36, upgraded electric coil to +3, and took on Santa's portable furnace, Fuoco. For this fight, I made sure to bring electric coil and Fulminous since Fuoco is a robot, which means he is weak to electric damage. I mainly used electric coil for this fight since I didn't think it would be worth doing a charge attack with Fulminous. Coming into this fight with low Fable charges, I made sure to build it up to the max before using Generate so that I could dish out bigger damage when Fuoco was closer to dying, but I started to get into a bit of a pickle near the end. Seeing that Fuoco was almost dead, I started spamming Fulminous shots as fast as possible to quickly finish him off, putting me one step closer to my goal of becoming the new evil Santa. With Fuoco defeated, I can now obtain the Flamberge, which is a flamethrower that when fully upgraded can be detonated to explode. Being the toy-making elf that I am, I decided to have a bit of fun and take the Salamander Dagger Blade and put it on the electric coil handle to see how it plays out. And while I was at it, I started upgrading the Salamander Blade. Before heading out, I also upgraded myself since I had 2 quartz on me. I then start making my way to the cathedral to be stopped by a rogue toy who I was ill prepared for. I completely forgot this section was still filled with puppets and it was the area right before the cathedral with the infected. Either way, I persevered to defeat the rogue to get the carrier's amulet. On my way to the cathedral, I cross paths with the Atone, who seems to be a goody two-shoes, and we cannot be having those types of people around, and lucky for me, she's a human, so she burns pretty easily. Plus, I don't know too many humans that can take a flaming dagger to the face. With the Atone taken care of, I found the cathedral, massacred a bunch of infected zombie humans, ransacked the place of all its upgraded materials, fought an oversized Zit monster for a quartz, picked up some supplies, and found my new best friend Alidoro, who could do no wrong. Now, having access to Alidoro, I purchased the Extreme Modification Amulet and the Conquering Amulet. I then head back to Hotel Krot to level my advance to 45, upgrade the Salamander Blade to +5, and further upgrade myself some more. With all the prep work done with, it's time for fallen Archbishop Andreus, who come to find out is Santa's brother-in-law, who ended up killing me 10 times. Which caught me off guard since I didn't have that much trouble against him in my last run. I don't know if it was because in the last run I could easily stagger him more or was just be able to dish out more damage, but I had to start taking Andreas seriously. When fighting him on my 11th attempt, I made sure to preserve as many pulse cells as I could for the second phase. Once in the second phase, that's where the real fight began. The biggest hurdle was getting to his backside. I ended up having to use all 3 pulse cells that I had on me just to make it there. Once on his backside, it's just like fighting his first phase, so I was able to survive long enough to get a heal back to stay in the fight, and eventually I got the poise break, and smelling blood in the water, I striked, giving me a chance for a visceral that ended up inflicting burn, which allowed me to finish him off in a few hits. With Andreus burnt to a crisp, I immediately ran over to Path of the Pilgrim to get Acidic Crystal Spear. The Acidic Crystal Spear is a piercing type weapon that focuses on acid damage with a high scaling in advance. Its blade's Fable Art, Radiate, greatly increases acid damage, and its Hilt's Art, Single Stab, does a charge stab attack. While on Weapon Talk, I also at this time had a Legion plug, so I got Pandemonium, which can throw out pools of acid that deal damage when enemies stand in them, and upon upgrading, you can change the direction of the attack, and once fully upgraded, the pools of acid can explode. But I'll be honest, they take forever to proc. Being back at the hub, I upgraded the spear to +4 and used an advanced crank on the spear's hilt to take it from an A scaling to an S scaling. I also took the Salamander blade and put it on the spear's handle since I was still in the carcass territory. Which good thing I did, because this big fucker showed up. So I'm assuming this is a human that got mutated, but where did the axe with teeth come from? Did a tree get infected, or did it somehow birth it itself? I don't know. Just some food for thought, you know? After taking out whatever that was, I infiltrated my old toy making workshop and made sure to make myself at home by taking whatever I wanted. While scavenging, I ran into my former toy making pupils who were not too happy to see me. Apparently they were not too happy about the reindeer Tootsie Roll prank. Well, too bad for them because I don't plan on being punished. The Black Rabbit Brotherhood fight was really straightforward. I just made sure to parry the Elder Brother's attacks until his weapon broke and applied acid when I could. Acid in Liza P helps with weapon and shield deterioration, but it also does tick damage to the enemies. This is really helpful in this fight since human types are weak to acid, which made getting rid of the 3 other siblings a breeze. With no more siblings to help the elder brother, he easily went down in a few pokes. After I finished teaching my former students a lesson, I further upgraded my organ for some more healing and a better dodge. I then tried to pet a cat, but he wasn't having it. So I leveled my advance to 52 and made my way to Rosa Isabel Street, where I came across a Karen who was not happy about one of the toys I made, so I did with her like I do with all Karens I come across. Cover them in acid and call it a day. But apparently I was not done yet. The Mad Clown puppet was not happy I stole his big red nose and really wanted it back, which he did a pretty good job of it, but since I'm a time-traveling evil puppet, I was eventually able to kill the big clown. I then heard one of my toys was running amok, so I upgraded my organ to get some more healing, killed the dolls in this area to get the Crescent Moon Stone, and upgrade my electric coil to +6, to take on my greatest creation, the Puppet King. To say I had a rough time would be putting things lightly. I didn't really run into any issues with his first phase, besides every now and then he decided to be a butt. No, once again his damn second phase gave me a lot of trouble. With him being so fast, me not being able to have good defense due to weight limits, and for the fact my weapon wasn't doing that great of damage, it led to a lot of deaths. I thought maybe switching to the spear would help out, but it did not. It was very clear I was going to need to use the electric coil for damage since it made the first phase go by a lot quicker, but no matter how many times I tried, I kept dying in his second phase, and then it dawned on me, I'm a fucking evil elf, so I started blasting. Now, normally I'm against using combat items in my runs, but after doing some research and realizing I was cosplaying an evil elf, it was not only fitting, but practically the way this build is meant to be played. Now, I did restrict myself to only using it if I felt like I really needed it, because I do believe all bosses can be done without them, but with that said, let's get into how I won this fight. His first phase is really simple, just lower his health enough for him not to go into his rage phase, and then break him to then use generate to help with visceral damage. With that done, just takes a few R2 attacks to get him to his second phase. For phase 2, pretty much try and get a visceral off on him near half health to then spam him with consumables. Easy, right? Well, if you accidentally get him past half health before this, he will then do his never-ending combo attack, which I never survived once. So I have to play it perfectly for this to work.
Oh no.
Or get absolutely lucky that you can break him at this moment to then spam kill him. I know I could have killed him here without the combat items, but I wasn't going to take any chances at this point. After blowing up my toy that went rogue, I talked to my butler friend who wants to know if a puppet can fall in love. Now, since I am an evil elf, I should tell him the truth, but I have a soft spot for the poor guy, so I lie to make him happy. But not for this old hag, she's getting the full evil elf experience. Once done counterbalancing my good deed with a bad deed, I level my advance to 59 and then take a stroll through the arcade playing an old pastime game of mine, Call of Duty Black Ops Zombies. Man, the mid-2000s was a good time. After reminiscing on old times, I pick up the circular electric chainsaw blade. Now, fans of this weapon, don't get too mad at me, but I didn't really use either part of this weapon. I tried the handle with a few weapon blades, which was nice for the reach, but I still felt like the other handles were better, and the blade with its cool perk of doing more electric damage after every hit just wasn't enough for me to stick with it, when I could just use generate with electric coil to dish out more damage. Now, I'm not saying these parts are bad, it's just within this run, the other weapons were just the better option at this point. With that said, I successfully rescued Belle this time. I also got another phone call from my favorite riddle man. Such a fun fellow to talk to. I look forward to meeting him one day. I then stared at a statue for way too long and had to go back to the hotel to tinker with my Pinocchio organ. Wink, wink. Once done tinkering, I stumble upon another faction of the North Pole who also wants to take over Santa's shop, the Tinker Knights. And as you can tell, Victor tinkers like Quagmire from Family Guy after finding out about corn on the internet. During the first round with Victor, I thought it was going to be like last time I fought him, where it was going to take some kind of crazy strategy to win, but after the second attempt where I almost beat him, I realized he wasn't as hard as I remembered him. For this fight, I made sure to go with Acidic Crystal Spear and Pandemonium for acid damage since that's what he's the weakest to. Really, all I had to do for this fight was parry his attacks, and once done parrying, poke him a bit until I got the decay status to proc. Something really cool I learned in the first phase was when he does his 5-punch combo after the 4th hit, you can actually strafe to the right to avoid the 5th swing to be able to get a couple of free attacks in. Another thing I made sure to do was use Pandemonium after breaking Victor, since he will take tick damage as long as he's in it even before, during, and after the Visceral is done. Now for phase 2, you might think it would be much harder, but weirdly I found the second phase easier than his first. He has a lot of single attacks that are easy to parry, and it feels like more of his moves are telegraphed in this phase than the first, but that could be my imagination for all I know. With that said, I did this fight Sekiro style, and it led to a 3rd try victory. Until Laxasia stole my kill, that bitch. Then the leader of the Tinker Knights showed himself, and he called himself...
My name is Simon Manus.
Did this motherfucker just say Manus? What is he, a fucking Pokemon?
Who's that Pokemon?
Well, after that interesting interaction, we decided to put our differences aside to take down Santa. I then came across 2 individuals who I accidentally gave a gold coin to because I was spamming the A button. Curse my spamming causing me to do a good deed. With now having access to Baron Swap, I can get the fancy Vanini collection to get Perfection Grindstone. Oh, that's right, it's the 3rd collection that gives it to you. Ah, fuck. Green Monster is going to be a pain in the ass, but I'm jumping ahead. So, back on track, I found Owl Doctor and revoked his license because he clearly killed a few people on the operation table. And of course, I took out the 2 Puppets of the Future because, you know, all bosses and stuff. I then found Alidoro to buy Arm of God Amulet, then upgraded Salamander Blade since the next boss is weak to fire. Used an advanced crank on the electric coil handle for later, fully upgraded Pandemonium, and took on my least favorite boss in the game, but if you watched my last Liza P video, you knew that already. Alright, let's get this out of the way. I died 58 times. All of those deaths could have been due to skill issue, or it could be the boss is a bit bullshitty, and I say this as someone who got to the point of no-hitting Nameless Puppets and Laxasia's first phase in my last run. But for the life of me, I cannot learn this boss' second phase attack patterns. Either way, let's just skip all the fussing and get to how I eventually won this hellish fight. So, after the 50th death, I finally caved and said fuck it, I'm going to use combat items. Here's a small reenactment of how it went. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Hold on, I got more. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And your mother too. Jokiness aside, I still died 8 times attempting it this way. Even with having 10 throwables, it wasn't enough to kill the green monster, so I had to hope and get lucky near the end to get a break. So I decided to go full Oonga Boonga and charge on in, hoping it would work. Oh, see? So easy a caveman could do it. In all honesty, I really wish I had the black steel cutter for this fight. For it being a fire weapon, having high guard defense, I think it would have been a really good option to have here. But sadly, it's not available until after this fight. With my own personal hell over with, I start making my way through corrupt Krot Central Station, where I got bullied by a headless puppet baby. It's fine, I'll just go visit. What the fuck is this? What did I do wrong this time? I saved Belle! Why are you dead? After fucking up again, I killed the big kitty cat in the streets for the murderer's puppet amulet, and found the hardest mini-boss in this run for me, Robber Weasel. To be honest with all of y'all, I have no clue why I struggled so hard with her this time. Last challenge run, she was a pushover, but here she was just making me her personal bitch. I got her close to death 3 times for me to just drop the ball and die. Look, I'll give it to y'all in this one, definitely a skill issue here. But with a little bit of perseverance, I was able to kill her on my 22nd attempt. With that done, I pick up the special Krot supply to be able to buy quartz, and more importantly, the rustic cryptic vessel, so that Vanini can decipher it and I can now access the new side area of the barren swamp, where I can get black steel cutter, but what I really wanted was this cool looking carcass axe. Sadly, the game would not give it to me. The black steel cutter focuses on dealing slashing and fire damage with high scaling in advance. Its blade's art is Storm Slash that is a flurry of swings onto an enemy, and its handle art is Guard Parry, which when timed correctly will parry the enemy's attack, but follow up with a powerful counter attack. Personally, I just wanted it for its blade. So I upgraded it to +9 and threw it on Electric Coil for faster swings and for Rush Smash. Once done upgrading my weapon, I further upgraded myself, getting me more pulse cells. With all that out of the way, it's time to test this bad boy out. I forgot how much I despise this fight. So, fuck you and your bitch ass clone. Really, the trick for this fight is just strafing to the right while parrying, because while strafing you can dodge a good chunk of Walker's attacks. And when his clone comes out, just hit it with a Rush Smash for a one shot. With those two things, it only took me 12 tries to win. After that lovely fight, I get a call from my BFF and we exchange riddles with one another. My riddle to him was, what has many keys but can't open a single lock? Let me know in the comments what you think the answer is. Full of excitement from riddle solving, I charge into the next boss fight, the Corrupted Parade Master. To say I had a plan for this fight would be giving me too much credit, but luckily he is one of the easier bosses in the game, but that doesn't mean I didn't die to him. He ended up getting me 5 times, but I came really close on my 3rd attempt with a well-timed Rush Smash that almost killed him, but I made the fatal mistake of not attacking afterwards, which allowed the son of a bitch to grab me and kill me. That one really hurt at the time. So I finally came up with a plan, save up my Fable charges until he was below half health, and then use Rush Smash, then Fable Catalyst to get charges back, and use Rush Smash again to finish off the giant slug. If only I would have come up with that plan sooner, I would have saved myself 15 minutes. After that small fiasco, I rushed back to the hotel to find the Tinker Knights ransacked the place and called me a hypocrite. I don't know what a hypocrite is, but I don't like it. So I leveled my advance up to 68, upgraded my aesthetic crystal spear to +9, and found out my former pupils have sided with the Tinker Knights. You make people eat reindeer shit one time and they go to the enemy faction. Petty little shits. So I went at this fight like how I did in the previous run by going after the spear sibling and then the dual wielding sibling, leaving me to just 1v1 the go-go gadget arm sibling to find out the elder brother comes out when there's one sibling left. In my previous run, I killed all 3 siblings so fast, I thought the elder brother only came out after all 3 died, but apparently that was not the case. So I changed my strategy to getting the remaining 2 down as low as possible to kill them back to back, and as you can see, it wasn't that hard to get backstabs off, which gave me enough time to get some acid out right as the elder brother popped out, and after that I just made sure to get decay off on him while I kept a safe distance, attacking when it felt safe. Unfortunately, near the end, I forgot after staggering him he could attack afterwards, which gave me a damn heart attack, but luckily it didn't kill me, and I was finally able to win this fight on my 7th attempt by shoving my spear up the elder brother's ass. That's what you get for giving me a heart attack. After that lovely reunion and permanently putting my former students in their place, I came across Alidoro, who seemed scared for some reason, so I comforted my murdering, identity-stealing friend and then proceeded to pick up the last Vanini collection, which means I can finally buy the Perfection Grindstone. Once done shopping, I find a lever, so I pull it, and a submarine popped out. So I did the obvious thing and stole it and crashed it on a beach like any sane individual would do. I then stormed the beaches of the Tinker Knights to find Quagmire. Oh look, he even evened out both of his arms. The door guardian was a bit of a pain. I thought it would be easy to just run up and break his leg, but tragically that wasn't the case. I ended up dying 17 times to this internet corn addicted bastard. But I eventually figured out his weakness, walking to the left. Surprisingly, by just walking to the left, you can dodge a good portion of his attacks and get free hits in. To be honest, I might have learned this on my last challenge run, but I don't really remember, but with that one trick, I was able to take down the door guardian. With that oversized butler taken care of, I made my way up the tower to slay a mini version of the oversized mutated cat and obtain the Acidic Great Curved Sword. The Acidic Great Curved Sword focuses on dealing slashing damage with a focus in scaling in advance, but leans into technique for extra damage. Its blades Fable Art Acid Slash, which does an upward slash followed by a downward smash, which causes the weapon to be covered in acid. The handle's art is Absolute Defense, which perfectly blocks the enemy's attack temporarily, but the real amazing thing about this weapon is that you can use elemental grindstones on it, whereas the other advanced weapons you cannot. Now, do be aware if you use Acid Slash, it will cancel out the other element that is on it at the time. Continuing my journey, I came across my BFF, and he seems to be in a bit of a pickle, but we had a nice chat about being humans and murdering. Once done chatting, I rescue test subject 826 because I'll be needing him for later. I then crossed paths with Black Cat, who wanted another handout, so I taught him why he shouldn't be so greedy. I then upgraded my acidic sword to plus 10 and upgraded myself for bigger stagger windows and to be able to hold on to more items. With all that done, it's time to take on the Tinker Knights General Laxasia. Laxasia was of course rough, especially with it being a minute since I fought her. It took me a second to remember how to parry her attacks for the first phase. But once I got it down, I no longer had issues getting her to her second phase, where the real trouble begins. Now, off the bat with how hard this fight is, I said fuck it and decided I would be using combat items from the start. And as you can see, having them did not guarantee me an easy win. No. The strategy came down to using Perfection Grindstone at the start to help parry her insanely fast dash attack, and then use a Fable Art to put her closer to a breaking point. After that, it was just trying to survive. If I got lucky, she would do one of her slam attacks for me to throw items, or she would jump in the air for me to deflect her projectiles back at her. Once I finally got the break, I would pray that I would survive her retaliation attack to get the visceral off. Before doing the visceral though, I of course would place acid to help with tick damage, and after the visceral, it became a waiting game for the right time to spam items, and fortunate enough for me, on my 43rd attempt, I finally got that opportunity. With Laxasia defeated, I find Sophia in the not so best of shape, and she axes me to put her out of her misery, which is hard because me, the player, wants to help her, but the evil elf doesn't. So I left it up to fate. What could go wrong? Oh no.
What have you done?
Ah, fuck. After getting fussed at by Scully, and most likely the commenters in the comment section, I hit up 826 to buy the Carcass Crystal Axe, which will be very important in a bit. I then spam killed the red fox with items, upgraded myself for better Fable Catalyst effect, and leveled my advance up to 99 because why not? Oh, something interesting I learned at this moment. Leveling advanced does not increase your physical defense at all, which explains why I felt like wet paper this entire run. With that said, guess who I found at the top of the Tinker Knight Tower?
It's
Simon Manus.
There's not much to talk about Manus' first phase. All the torture happened during the second phase. I could rant for about an hour about this fight, but I'll make it quick. During his second phase, his fight becomes pure chaos. He can send projectiles at you and be on your ass in a millisecond after shooting them, or he can send AoE attacks after you which you need to dodge while dodging his swing attacks. Now, in general, this is feasible, but when you get him to half health and he does the Hand of God attack that takes up almost half the arena, and if he so chooses to do one of the attack patterns I mentioned before, you now need to be aware of 3 things to dodge, and I hope you don't accidentally dodge into one of these said attacks. Also, I find it weird you can't parry back his projectile attacks. Like, the game just taught us we could do it with Laxasia, but we can't do it here. Very weird, but with that said, I did eventually win. It just took me dying 117 times to do so. For this fight, I ended up using Acidic Sword with Electric Coil hilt for Rush Smash. At the start of the fight, I would throw 2 acidic items to proc the decay. After that, I would just stay back, letting it do tick damage. Once it ran out, I would need to hit him with 3 more for it to proc again. After decay wore off for a second time, I would move on to spam throwing fire items at him to get his health as low as possible. Once out of items, I would then move on to Fable Arts attacks. I would start with Acidic Rush to get acid damage, and then use a Fable Catalyst so that I could then be ready to use Rush Smash. Sadly, most of the time the acid buff would wear off before I could benefit from it, but that's where my backup plan came into place of having an acid grindstone stored in the 3rd pouch. With now having the buff, I just needed the right opportunity to strike. Once doing the Visceral, I spammed my remaining catalyst to use Rush Smash for the win. As you can tell by this strategy, there's a reason it took me 118 attempts to pull this off. With Manus taken care of, that just leaves Skinny Santa, who turns out to be the real Santa. Damn it, Ozempic strikes again! Discovering his true identity, Santa brings out his ultimate weapon, Nameless Puppet. Funny enough, Nameless Puppet wasn't horrible this time around. I started off trying to use Acidic Sword with Electric Coil hilt, but I kept struggling in the second phase, so this is where the Carcass Crystal Axe comes in. Come to find out, Nameless has a pretty high resistance to slash damage, but has a low resistance to strike damage and acid. Another perk of using the Carcass Crystal's Axe Blade is that it has high damage reduction rate while guarding, which helped tremendously making the first phase easier. With being able to block attacks and having more guard regain, I could recover the majority of my health without having to use pulse cells. So all I had to worry about was getting decay off and attacking after blocking, which led to an easy first phase. Phase 2, on the other hand, was a bit more tricky, but still not that bad. Phase 2, I would start off with a Perfection Guard for survivability, and once things were clear, I would go into throwing shock items to get the shock status off. I did this to help with stagger buildup. From here, I just had to wait for a safe time to use acid items to get decay off for the tick damage, but I made sure to keep at least 2 on me. After getting decay off, it was time to try and get the break, and when I saw my chance, I used Rush Smash to then get the Visceral. The Visceral almost killed Nameless, but that's where the 2 acid items come in for the win. This epic fight ended up taking me 30 attempts to finally pull it off and become the evil Santa. Man, talk about a crazy run. I was not expecting it to be this hard, but it was definitely rewarding with some of the problem solving I had to do, especially with the last 3 bosses. With all that said, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, hit that subscribe button. At this time, I would also like to thank my channel supporters. If you too would like to support the channel or have your name in the video, you can click the Patreon link in the description or click the YouTube join button. I also from time to time stream my runs, so you can catch me streaming on YouTube or over on Twitch at Arcane Gaming. I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time, take care.